Welcome to another episode of the Aesthetic Business Masters podcast, the show where we help aesthetic clinic owners build smarter businesses, stronger teams, and more profitable clinics. Each episode, we sit down with industry leaders who are helping shape the future of aesthetics, sharing practical strategies you can implement immediately. Today, we're diving into something every clinic experiences, but many don't realise is quietly costing them thousands of dollars every month. When inquiries aren't answered quickly, when follow-ups fall through the cracks, when potential patients don't hear back, it isn't simply a misbooking. It's a loss of trust. And in today's world where consumers expect immediate responses, that trust can disappear in minutes. Joining us today is Ramey from Podium. Podium has been helping businesses transform customer communication by combining messaging, automation, and AI into better client experiences while helping businesses convert more inquiries into appointments. Today, we're exploring what AI actually looks like inside modern aesthetic clinics, how it's supporting, not replacing, great teams, and what clinic owners need to understand before introducing AI into their business. Ramey, welcome to the Aesthetic Business Masters podcast. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you, Nicole. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm very excited to be chatting to you today because normally when I see you, you're busy at your stand or you're speaking on stage, and today I get to sit down and take a moment with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, excited to be here and absolutely love working with you guys. So absolutely.
And Ramey, for those who don't know you and don't know Podium, can you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and what Podium does?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to introduce myself, my name is Ramey Shehata. I've been at Podium for roughly close to 7 years now, actually. Next month, it'll be 7 years. Yeah, started off basically, selling into the healthcare space, and then I've sort of moved up the ranks, and now my current role is head of partnerships. So basically, have been in the healthcare industry for a very long period of time and have seen this business in particular scale and grow to what it is today. Now, what Podium is it's essentially a communications platform. It started off with like reviews and communicating with patients, but now because of all the enhancements with AI, we've kind of evolved into an AI communications platform. So it's really, really cool and excited to talk about it really.
And Ramey, one of the things that so many speakers talk about and touch on is trust in aesthetics, in medicine, in beauty, even hair. Trust, it's so important, and, having that rapport with your client. And one of the statements that really caught our eye was slow replies aren't just missed bookings, they're missed trust. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that we're finding is that, and I think everyone can sort of recognize this, is that people, they've got low attention spans, let's call it. They want answers as quickly as possible. They want to, shop around and get, any questions answered as quickly as possible. So one of the things that we're finding is that, there's so many different options out there in the market right now. And essentially what that means is that whoever is the first person to respond to that patient is typically the one that wins that business, right? So I think there was a stat, I've done a few presentations around this, it's around 78% of consumers will choose the first business that they get, responded to. So what that basically means for any one clinic is if there's a patient that's asking a question on like a Saturday night and they don't get a response back until Monday, a lot of the time the drop-off rate is really, really bad, only because it's left the patient's mind a lot of the time, or they might have shopped around for a different solution, or they found a cheaper one, or quite honestly, they're not with their significant other that is helping make those decisions in the first place. So if we're not basically trying to respond back to patients as quickly as possible, it's not that we lose trust. It's just that, the patient will, basically forget about it or move on or whatever else. So you really want to make sure that you've got a solution that can, respond effectively at the same time as when they're doing their research, So it's a really, funny finding, I would say. But that's the reason why AI is like a really powerful solution to really help resolve that. So
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And not related to obviously a clinic, but, recently I reached out to an event designer and, sent all the different things and requirements that I wanted, for a proposal, a quote. And I did this obviously with a couple of different stylists. And one of them took 3 weeks to get back to me. And when she came back, she's like, "Oh, sorry, I haven't got back to you sooner, but, here's a proposal." I'm thinking, and I'm like, "What?" I
Yeah.
loaded this like within 3 days of sending out my requests for quotes.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's pretty consistent with what we find with even clinics. We talk to clinics all the time where their average response rate might be 3 days, 5 days, a week even. And yeah, ultimately that is losing trust in the patient. Like if you can't come back to a patient even when your business is operating in a timely manner, like what's to say that you're going to be the best person for them when they're looking for certain treatments or services. So yeah, there is definitely some trust that can get lost in that process. For those who are responding in an effective manner, there's always ways of being able to reduce that time and again speak back to those patients as quickly as possible as well. So yeah.
Yeah, it just makes you feel like you're not important.
Yeah, and not heard. Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm. And then I guess more importantly with a clinic, separate to my event stylist, if something was to go wrong and you needed help, what, are you gonna get an out of office email? We'll reply within 24, 72, however many hours?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I want to sort of, educate everyone on as well, Podium is an AI communications platform. But one thing that we do that's, I would say, something that's like pretty often found in a clinic is we use SMS as a way to communicate with patients. Now, the difference between like what we do than what other clinic softwares do out there is that it opens up the line of communication. So it allows for two-way texting between the patient and the practice. And what we do find with that, it means that your practice is now going to be saved on their phones as their clinic, their, trusted advisor almost. So if there's any questions or concerns or anything like that, it can open up the line of communication to that practice directly. So that's really awesome because again, you've got that really personal sort of communication touch with that patient. And if you think about like from the patient's perspective, the only time they text anyone really, it's their friends and family. So by having this line of communication open with your practice, it just means that you can ask them whatever questions you've got about the treatment that you've got. But more often than not, it's more around, oh, I've got a cousin or a brother or a sister or whatever it is that's in the same room that's talking about, the service that I got, provided by this clinic. I could simply just go on my phone and, give them a direct referral. So we see that all the time. And this is even a bit beyond AI. This is, something that we've always been adopting with the clinics that we work with is just having that line of communication open through two-way texting.
Oh, I just love that. Emails are there's just too many. I can't even. And you've probably just answered this, but where are clinics leaking opportunities that most owners simply don't realize are happening?
Oh man, it's such a hot topic. I'd say, all right, think about the clinic right now, right? There's two ways that you can become profitable. One is getting more patients into the clinic, and the second one is making sure your patients don't go anywhere else. Okay. Now, from the perspective of most clinic owners, they're always talking about just, funnel in more leads. Let's work with a marketing agency. Let's work with, SEO agencies, whatever it is. And that takes a lot of time and effort and a lot of money sometimes, right? So you got to create creatives for socials. You got to, draft up SEO strategies. You got to focus on your Google reviews. You got to do, there's a million and one things that you have to do to make sure that you are getting more patients. And one of the biggest gaps that we see always is the leak in after hour and during work, after hour patients and weekend patients. And what I mean by that is, let's say as an example, if I'm a patient and I'm looking for anti-wrinkle treatment or whatever it is, a lot of that research is happening when that business is closed, right? And the reason why I say this is because if I'm looking at that and I'm at work, I'm not going to be, opening up a window doing research around these treatments because it's very personal to me, right? If people are walking past me, they're not going to do that research. So what we do find is patients are always looking after hours. And if there's not an effective strategy for any one clinic that can, one, generate those leads in the first place or those inquiries, that's a really big gap. So what I mean by that is if they jump on the website and it's not easy to find the contact form, and there's not an easy way to email them or text them, whatever it is, that's a big, leak in any one business. So one thing that I would always encourage people to do is add some sort of chat solution there, because again, it encourages them to ask questions. But then second to that, it's great to get that lead generated. But again, like I mentioned before, while it's top of mind for that patient and they've got that question, you want to have an effective strategy to be able to convert that patient and answer any questions they've got. And that's where really AI is becoming, more evident and more powerful, because you can train the AI, you can make sure that it's configured exactly to your business. And what that ultimately means is that when they're asking questions, the AI can actually respond effectively with the intention of booking a consultation when the clinic is open. So that's a big, big gap. And I'd say, again, another one is like social media, right? So social media, think about all patients that are on social media. It is, again, happening more after hours than it is work hours. No one's, I'm sure there is people, but most people are looking at, social media when the business is closed. And again, if you don't have an effective strategy to be able to generate those leads, have AI facilitate those conversations, then again, it's just a massive, leaking bucket, within that clinic. Yeah.
Yeah, Rami, back in the old days, we had mystery shoppers.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember mystery shoppers. I used to think that would be the best job ever. Anyway, what, in your experience, what's some of the big differences between what clinic owners think are happening at their reception and their front of house and this follow-up process versus what is actually happening?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I'd say it really does differ between practice to practice. The only thing that I would always highly suggest is taking a look at your phone systems. This is one that hasn't been, upgraded in a very long time. People still use the handheld sort of devices to be able to, speak to patients at the front desk. And the reason why I call this out is at Podium, we have a soft phone or a VoIP solution that can actually record every single phone call. And we can have AI transcribing every word and being able to summarize it with AI. And what we're finding with that is it means that you as a business owner of that clinic will have way better visibility over the conversations that's been had. So the short answer is you don't know unless you have these solutions in place. You could have the receptionists that you've trained for ages not saying the right thing. They might be, talking about prices when they shouldn't be. They might be, not taking them or putting the right control mechanisms in place to make sure that they actually are booking for a consultation. Or, there's a million and one things that could be going wrong. So yeah, I would always look at some sort of solution that will give you better visibility over it. Because ultimately you want to have your front desk be the front door of your business. And if it's not up to scratch and it's not a good representation of your business, you could be potentially missing out on a lot of lost revenue, but also not, doing right by the patient and giving them the best sort of procedure or process possible as well. Well, one more thing to add as well to that, wherever possible, I would always encourage to eliminate a lot of the tasks that a human might be doing and allow for automations or AI to be able to take over some of those use cases. So a really good example of that is every missed call that happens within any one clinic. There might be, call registry, or there might be a voicemail list that you can, pick up the phone and call them. But again, it requires a human to be able to, go through, pick up the phone and call that patient, or you might be playing phone tag. It might take some time. So if you can think of a way of being able to automate a lot of that, which again, with Podium, every missed call that happens, a text goes out to that patient and asks them, hey, sorry, we missed your call. How can we help you? And you're sort of allowing automations or systems to be able to take care of that portion of what a human would be doing. And then again, it allows that receptionist to do whatever they needed to do within that one clinic, to increase patient experience or what have you. So wherever possible, try to take away the human element with these small mundane tasks that's not focusing on the patient experience. That's what a human is for. That human is meant for the sympathy. It's meant for the connection with them, booking them into the treatment and speaking to them while they're in the practice. Whereas again, you can use automations or systems out there that can take away a lot of the, these other tasks as well.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And Rami, I don't know if you've noticed this, but Apple have brought in some sort of update that when you call somebody, your call is screened. So you get this, please state your name and intention for this call. And then you're either rejected and feel like, oh crap, they heard it was me and they don't want to talk to me. Or you're like, yes, I made it through your robot. It feels so robotic and so awful. Well, I'm not a big fan
Yeah.
because I don't want to be rejected. How do you use AI with Podium to improve patient experiences and not have it feel robotic and not very personalized?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And I don't think the voice element is quite there yet for a practice. Like the reason why I say this is when it comes to a practice, patient experience means everything. Absolutely everything, right? However, there is still ways of being able to engage with patients outside of like a robot speaking to a patient, which is doing things like texting them, right? Like that's less, there's no voice sort of element to it that, a lot of the time they don't even know that it's AI. But you can, the AI would be able to still facilitate conversations and answer any questions, and it still feels like a very personal experience, if that makes sense. We do have AI, let's call it robot voice solutions for other industries, which mostly for businesses that are, people that just want an answer and want to book in a service. So we have one in the mechanical industry as an example. It answers questions of whatever that person wants, and then it can look into the calendar of that business and then book them in. But it's not about patient experience at that point. It's like, I need a service. I want to know if you've got Thursday at 2:00 available. Cool, let's do it. And I think that's right for that industry, right? People just want their cars booked and serviced. But again, from a clinic standpoint, you want to make sure that you're doing right by the patients, because again, it's a lot more sensitive, I'd say, and you're dealing with people's health at the end of the day. So yes, the AI will still be able to facilitate conversations through text and answer any questions. If it doesn't know their answer as well, there has to be the correct guardrails in place to be able to escalate it to a human, so then they can actually take over the conversations. But if it's a general conversation to be had with the AI, it's really, really good at being able to facilitate those conversations and then book in a consultation with a real human to deal with that patient.
Yes. Yes, you're right. It's not transactional. It's very much relationship building in this industry.
Absolutely. Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there. Yeah.
And many clinics are curious about AI, but they don't know where to start. I mean, it's crazy. There's so many apps, there's so many CRMs, and we're just flooded constantly with new updates and things. What does implementing AI into a clinic actually look like?
Yeah. It's a very good question. I'd say when I speak to clinic owners and they're talking about AI and how to adopt it into their practice, a lot of them are talking about like Claude or ChatGPT or whatever it is. The one thing I would say is I would always encourage everyone to look at it like an off-the-shelf solution, because to give you a really maybe deeper understanding of, even Podium's AI solution, we've got more than 10 language models around our AI, and it facilitates different, reasons of why we have that. And the reason why I'm saying this is because it's not that easy to be able to create an AI solution. You really want to be working with a business that has one that is, is very specific to the industry that you're working in. And the other thing that I'd say, the whole reason, like the whole benefit around AI is to take away some of the tasks from a human so that they can focus on other areas of the business. That's the one thing that I would probably encourage everyone to do is think about the clinic, take a step back for a moment and start to like brainstorm ways that you can start to use AI to alleviate time off that practice. It may be a really hard thing to do because you don't know what the use cases look like. But once you do understand what that looks like, then you can start to think of ways of using AI for those tasks. So I can give you a million examples around this. Like I talked about, leads or inquiries that are coming in from social media and your website and what have you. But what I didn't talk about is things like, using AI for aftercare instructions or responding to reviews or whatever else. Those things, again, things that a human would have to do. They would have to give him a piece of paper for aftercare instructions. Why not send him a text automatically? Or, with the response to reviews, you have to do it obviously in a good way, but you could also have AI be able to respond to them in, obviously a compliant way. But again, those are things that are tasks that a human would have to necessarily do. But now you can have automations or some sort of AI facilitating those tasks. So yeah, I would say focus on the actual task that you want to overtake and that's taking a bit of time, and then focus on AI that can actually come up with that solution. Yeah.
Yeah. And how long does this implementation typically take? And what are some of the biggest misconceptions owners have before getting started?
Yeah. Yeah. Again, another very good question. I'd say it's shorter than you think. However, the thing I would say is it really depends on your appetite to move quickly, and then, how fast you want to start to train this AI. And so it's only as good as what you're going to, provide it. The thing that we see is it probably takes about 2 or 3 days to really configure it. But there is a good timeline and a good, way to implement AI in a very effective but safe manner. So basically what we do is for the first 2 or 3 days, it's just about configuration. So focusing on the AI, is it going to be more bubbly? Is it going to be more salesy? Is it going to be more this? What, information do we want to give it about the practice? Okay, this is the services that we provide. These are the ones that we don't. Do we want to feed it the APRA and the TJ compliance guidelines as well so it can respond in an effective manner? There's a million ways of being able to configure the AI. And then from there, instead of just going, cool, AI is now released into the market, it's going to talk to all my patients. No, that shouldn't be the case. What you want to be doing is almost using the AI to respond to the patients, but not actually sending. And then what happens is you need a human overseeing those conversations and clicking send on all the ones that you like and denying and giving it feedback to the ones that you don't. And that process could take a week. It could take 2 weeks, whatever you feel comfortable with, until you're like, okay, I'm really, really confident it's getting it 98% correct. This is great. Let's do it. And then you can send it into the market so it can actually respond to patients, automatically. And I'd say I mentioned 98% there. One thing that we always talk about with AI is if you think about like a human, having conversations with patients, we talk about, we always look at like accounts that use Podium with AI and what happened before AI. And a lot of the times a human would be 70% accurate, 80% accurate, and they didn't respond correctly. So like getting an AI being able to respond in a very good, accurate way, the best thing about it is it's scalable. So once you get it to that 90, 95, 98%, then you're like, cool, this is going to be something that I can implement forever now, right? But obviously, continuously looking at it and giving it feedback along the way. It's not going to be perfect forever, but again, it's encouraging to be able to give it that feedback. So whenever you're looking at a solution, always look at a solution with a really good onboarding process so it eliminates as much risk, but then also it allows you to be able to configure it, not rely on that software company or that other solution or an account manager that has to make the changes because your business is going to continue operating. And if you have to rely on a business to be able to make those changes, again, that could slow down the effect of the AI. So having a bit more control with your AI is a really important factor into it as well.
Yeah. And Ramey, I'm guessing in your travels doing Podium partnerships, you've seen lots of before and afters in the clinic before implementing AI and Podium and after. How have you seen these clinics change once they've had AI supporting their front desk?
It's night and day. So I can talk through a few examples. I think I presented at the ABM actually when I was there. Let's just say I'll give you one example. There was a clinic that we worked with in Queensland. With the AI solution, it was able to book in, I think it was around 58 sales related consultations with the AI. Now, 68, converted with the AI. 58 of those were after hours. So I really want to highlight that because again, it really does paint the picture of a lot of these patients are coming in from social media and on websites after hours and on weekends when the business is closed. So this one clinic had 58 new consultations booked within a 30-day window. Now that's astonishing. So if you think about that throughout the whole year, let's just assume that she only booked in 10 out of that. That's 10 new patients per month. Now, historically, she might have been spending money on Meta ads and Google ads and SEO and doing all these strategies to get patients to the website, and it wasn't converting. But now you can see, obviously, with having an AI solution, it can do that in the back end for you. Now, the crazy thing about that one as well is that those 68 booked consultations, there was probably about 120 inquiries that actually came into that clinic in the 30-day window. So I wasn't able to convert a lot of it. But the cool thing about the AI is it responded within 90 seconds, first of all, which again, no human is going to be able to do. Like, you just can't replicate that unless you have a human on the computer 24/7, just looking at all the inquiries all the time. So that was really awesome. But what's really, really good is that the practice, the receptionist, the people that are actually at the front desk, they don't have to chase these inquiries anymore. They don't have to take time out of their day to pick up the phone and call that patient. They don't have to do a lot of that stuff, and they can focus on other areas of the business that needs them. So not only is it like a really awesome tool to be able to convert more patients, but it's a really effective strategy to have your employees focus on other areas of the business, which predominantly should be sitting with the patient experience. So yeah, we've seen this with many clinics across the country, and that's something that's quite consistent across all the practices we work with.
Yes, that makes so much sense. There's nothing worse than arriving to a clinic and standing awkwardly at the reception for 5 minutes because the receptionist is on the phone, and that was just hold, and then you can hear the phone ring. Oh, just hold on one more minute. Oh my goodness! And then the same thing happens when you go to leave. You leave, and sometimes you've got a red face, or you've just had a treatment of some description. You don't feel face ready for the world. And then you're standing there for 5 or 10 minutes while they're answering calls to pay the bill and leave.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I didn't even think of like the front facing experience, but you're 100% right. Like, if there's people inquiring online while there's a patient right in front of them, you can deal to the patient right in front of you instead of, having to pick up the phone and speak to them and whatever else. So yeah, absolutely.
And beyond the normal website inquiry, what are there any other ways, or are there unexpected ways that we might not know that AI can help your clinic and your front desk?
Yeah, I'll give you one that's one of my personal favorites, which is, I spoke about a phone system, right? The typical phone system, you pick it up, you speak to a patient, you hang up, whatever. Now with phone systems, you've got AI that can actually work alongside those phone calls. So what I mean by that, of course, it's recording every call, the AI transcribes it, and it summarizes it. Now, that's all well and good, but the real benefit comes from the patient profile. So as you're speaking to patients, what we're finding is, because it's transcribing every call, it's also updating the profile of that patient. So for a couple of reasons, one of them is if a business owner wants to get a better summary of that patient, they could see that. It's really good for note taking, so you don't have to take notes. We all know that you're busy and you might be writing notes and whatever. Again, that's all kind of eliminated. But what's also really awesome, and this is probably the most important use case, is if that patient calls today and speaks to me and we have a long conversation, it might be 30 minutes, the AI transcribes it, builds a summary and builds a profile of that patient. Then that patient calls back in 6 months and they're talking to a different receptionist. Before that second phone call happens, there's actually going to be a profile and a summary of that patient. And what's cool about that is, before you even answer it, you'll know exactly who that patient is, which right now with a normal typical phone, every phone call is just a ring, you pick up and you're blind. But now that you've got AI working alongside a human interaction, which is picking up the phone, you're going to be able to actually understand who that patient is and what they're all about. So things like, I don't know, this person's disgruntled, right? So you have to tread lightly with this phone call. Or this patient that is ringing has an appointment with us tomorrow. Okay, cool. I know how to treat that. Or this one had a daughter, or this one had, a pet, whatever it is, right? You can understand who that patient is and you can pick up the phone and you can speak to them. So imagine a world where it's like, oh, Nicole, it's been a couple of weeks since we last spoke. That's such a good patient experience, right? And again, that's something that's really cool to see, that is, complementary to a human. And AI is giving you summary, it's writing down those notes, it's doing all that. And then you are focusing on the patient experience and giving them, the best experience possible.
Yeah, so true. When someone says to you, how was your trip? Or how was the wedding? Or, Yeah, something that you mention to them and you think, oh, wow, they remembered. Oh,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
And
I love that solution so much. Yeah.
yeah, no, that is
Just,
really cool.
yeah. We've just seen so much positive feedback around that. But even, yeah, it's something that just goes missed, which is like note taking. That seems like such a small thing that, you know, again, you don't really think about that AI can really help solve for, but it is something that could definitely help. So,
Yeah. And Rami, most of us can't keep up. I mean, we had automation come in and then it got taken over in a blink of an eye by AI and everything's moving so fast. Some people have only just got their head around ChatGTP and now there's Claude and like, oh my goodness, I'm saying now, but none of these things are new. Everything's just moving 100 miles an hour. Looking ahead in the next 2 to 5 years, how do you see AI changing the patient journey for aesthetic clinics?
heaps. I'll just say one thing. AI right now is probably, it is the worst it's going to be right now. Like we know, like if you rewind 2 years ago and you talk about AI, like it was good. Like there was ChatGPT and there was like all these tools that you can draft emails and fix things and whatever else. But right now, like there's so much advancement. We know this, it can generate videos and images and all these different things. So imagine that 2 year period, what it's going to look like in the next 2 years. And what we're finding is, like really having a tool that is AI led, you're going to be ahead of the game in a lot of ways. So we've just come out with an AI operating system, which is a complete game changer. So think of your calendar, think of your communication with patients, think of your charts, your bookings, your literally everything that happens within a clinic where with their typical solution, but powered by AI. So I'll give you a few use cases around this. So imagine, your leads and your inquiries that are coming in from all the channels that we spoke about earlier, the AI are having conversations with those patients. Right now, it would get a commitment from the patient, but there would be a human that has to actually book into the calendar. But now with this AI operating system, which is out now, by the way, the AI will actually be able to say, oh, we've actually got availability at 2 o'clock on Thursday. Does that work for you? And then they say yes. And then it actually directly books it into that calendar. Or another one is like, okay, I need to reschedule it. Again, it'll look into that calendar, make changes, give suggestions, and be able to book it in. So there won't even be a human that has to actually move those appointments. But what's also cool is, again, there's the AI voice and you're speaking to a patient and, the patient says, hey, I want to reschedule next week. Again, you'll see those things move because it's, again, transcribing every call and it's integrated into the calendar solution that is that one centralized operating system. Or again, as you build these client profiles, over the years and the database gets bigger and bigger and bigger, whenever there might be an opportunity to be able to reach out to that patient for whatever reason. So it could be, 6 months since their last treatment. It could be, the season, whatever it is, the AI will be able to randomly text that patient in a very, very effective way, but also, specific to that patient. So it might be talking about like their dog or their experience or whatever it is. It'll randomly be able to text that patient and try to, again, see if they're interested in coming back into the consultation room. So this is like a new world of like AI that's embedded as part of the operating system. That's going to be really cool for practices that really want to start to use and leverage AI as much as possible to be able to reach out to patients. There's another one as well that I could mention as well called the AI operator, which is, imagine you've got your, a software on your desktop or your computer, and there's like one search bar similar to ChatGPT or Claude. And it's like, hey, can you bring up every single phone call over the last 30 days of patients that were interested but didn't want to go ahead? Cool. Generates that full report. It'll analyze all the calls in the last 30 days. Okay, can you do me a favor and text all those patients? Done. Text all of them. Or it's like, hey, can you please bring up, there's a million use cases around that. And yeah, what's cool is that's going to be embedded as part of these solutions now that has been integrated into your, the interactions that you've got with patients all in one solution, but then having the AI be able to, pull triggers or generate reports or whatever you want it to do right in that same solution.
That is so cool. And I don't know about you, but oh my gosh, end of financial year, I thought this is going to be scary. All the bazillions of apps that I have and Apple Pays and oh my goodness, online and on my phone, it's bananas. And so many people do. They have MailChimp, they have ManyChat, they have Later, they oh my goodness, have so many different things as opposed to one platform that can hold everything. What can Podium actually do? What can we just a clinic owner pass over and say, okay, all of this is now in one platform. We don't have to have 20,000.
Yeah. It can essentially think of it as a replacement to your CRM or your patient, platform that stores all the information about that patient, whatever it is. So think of it as that, but it will connect to social media, your website, third-party websites. You can even connect it to your contact forms, your emails, literally everything that a patient communicates with the practice will be stored in one. And then in addition to that, you can collect payments through the platform as well. So that's really cool. You can, use it as almost like your accounting software as well. It will integrate with like MyOb and Xero and what have you. You can use it as your phone system as well. So then you can make and receive phone calls out of that same solution. You can collect reviews and feedback. You can do charting, like literally anything that you basically use within the clinic. Let's say, as a practice management system or whatever, your calendar booking system, all in one centralized sort of solution. And that's out there right now. So yeah, and it's enhancing every day. I'm not even kidding. We're releasing probably 14 more products than we were last year with one. Like there's just consistent sort of movement around that. And yeah, it's really cool to see it sort of all get tied into one solution now and be able to really get the most out of it. Like one thing that we always get, how I spoke about the AI operator where you can just type in whatever questions you've got. I'd say that's probably the biggest thing because right now, if it's like, I just want to know, how many leads we're getting from Facebook and what the conversion rate looks like, right? You would have to call your marketing team maybe for that, or you have to jump into this, and it's just like so fragmented. So being able to just go, I need this, I need that. And we know as business owners, like there's things that just pop up in your mind randomly when you're sleeping at night or whatever it is. So what's cool about this solution is because it's all going to be integrated with all your different things that you could think about in one sort of solution, and then having one prompt or one thing to turn towards to get that information for yourself, you're just going to be more clued into your business and you're going to make way better decisions moving forward around some of the strategies that you want to implement. But ultimately, again, helping that patient experience and making sure that you're doing right by them as well. So yeah, it's really exciting. I'm pumped about this industry. I'm pumped about the solutions. So
yeah, it's so exciting. That's so cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
You must just blow people's mind when you go into the clinic.
A little bit, yeah, but it's just crazy to see where it's come from, So, and I'm just, yeah, it's awesome to see the advancements and more importantly, some of the results that we've seen with practices that really get around it. So,
oh my god, well, over 7 years, I can't even imagine the journey you've been on and how you've seen the product develop.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, mind you, Podium's been around since 2014 in the US. So we are essentially like a US software company. Globally, we work with 60,000 businesses. In Australia, we've been here for 7 years. I myself, like I said, been here for 7 years as well. When I first started, it was me, I think 4 Aussies and probably 6 Americans. It was very odd. Where it is today, we've got about 160 employees in Melbourne. And yeah, every Aussie business that work with us, we've got about 6,000 locations in the country across many industries, are all dealing with the Aussies in Melbourne. They don't deal with anyone from overseas whatsoever. And that's, very much on purpose because the solution is great. There's many solutions out there. And what we did find, even like the early days of Podium, is that it's a very intuitive product. Like you can use it like really well on your own, but it's only as good as someone actually using it. So what we do is we, sign you up as a customer, but then really hold your hand on, exactly how you could use it, into your day to day. So it's not like we, just give it the tools and say good luck with it. That's really not the best thing to do. But the best thing to do is to really show you, this is how you use it, but then these are how 10 different ways that other people are using it. And then you can start to really start to embed it into your practice. Yeah.
That makes perfect sense. Like buying a treadmill or an exercise bike or a Peloton and then not using it, but you're like the personal trainer.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so important. So important, especially with AI. We do not let people onboard AI themselves. You really need to have a trained professional, but then we'll teach you on how to give it feedback and support it moving forward, but treat it as like an employee almost. But for the very beginning, it's so important to have a human, again, sort of working with you guys on actually, configuring it for your business. So
I love that customization. That's amazing.
yeah, absolutely.
And before we wrap up, Ramey, let's do some quick fire, which is quick, rapid fire. So whatever comes to mind, there's no right or wrong answer.
Done.
One AI tool every clinic owner should know about.
Is it bad to say Podium?
Yeah, no. Biggest mistake clinics make with Enquiries.
Don't get back to them in time.
Yeah, no. One process every clinic should automate tomorrow.
I'd say aftercare instructions and follow-ups with patients.
And one piece of advice for clinic owners feeling overwhelmed by AI.
Speak to a professional, 110%. Get educated as much as possible as well.
Fantastic. Ramey, thank you so much for your time today. It's been incredible chatting to you and learning from you and hearing your passion.
I appreciate it. No, and I appreciate your time, Nicole. It's been awesome.
Ramey, thank you so much for joining us today. I think one of the biggest takeaways from this conversation is that AI isn't about replacing people. It's about giving great teams the tools to deliver exceptional patient experiences, respond faster, and build trust from that very first interaction. For our listeners, if today's episode gave you something valuable, we'd love it if you subscribed, left us a review, and shared this episode with another clinic owner who could benefit from the conversation. At Aesthetic Business Masters, our mission is to help aesthetic business owners build smarter, more profitable, and sustainable clinics through real conversations with the industry's leading experts. Until next time, keep learning, keep leading, and keep building the business you're proud of. We'll see you on the next episode of the Aesthetic Business Masters podcast.